Did Bo Nix play his best game of the year, not from a statistical standpoint, but maybe just the eye test? Did the eye test tell you that was one of, if not his best games of the year?
I think, it was definitely in the upper half, probably upper quarter of games that he's played. There have been moments that he's played better in certain games, but I think it was the best game from the standpoint of consistency. He didn't put his team in a bad position, I didn't feel like. And I felt like that game was always going to be just an absolute battle. A lot of field goals. I'd love to see Denver become more efficient in the red area. I know that that's really difficult. I think that he needs more patience in the pocket, in particular when you're talking about the red area. It always helps if you can run the football a little bit more efficiently in that area because, as you can see, guys, you're tied at 19, and a lot of that is the fact that you've got to settle. And with your defense in Denver, you're going to force a lot of field goals. So if you can just somehow get more efficient and punching those drives in, that's really the mark that I think, or the one area that this team could separate itself and become a Super Bowl champion, to be honest with you. And if they continue to struggle with that, then they're going to just constantly be in these games and have to battle through. Obviously, the quality defense helps. But from a consistency standpoint, I certainly felt like he played one of his better games, speaking of Nix. I'd still love – I know normally I'm the defender here. I would still love if he didn't have such an aggressive climb in the pocket. I just wish there was some level of patience at the top end of his drop with his feet more underneath him rather than the aggressive hitch step up. But I'm nitpicking.
Yeah, I thought it was much better. It seemed like he hung in there more. The feet were calmer. And the offense, looked much better than what we had been seeing, Joel. Are you confident now that they can build off of that and we're going to see a better product, or you still think we're going to see the ups and downs that we saw the previous 10 weeks?
No, I think that you'll get more consistency now. Back end of his second year, you're talking about what is this? It's going to be, top of my head, like his 28th, 29th start in the NFL. I think you're going to start to see a little bit more consistency in that game. That consistency is going to creep into the entire offense. I think that the entire offense will get better, in particular when you're talking about specialty situations, 3rd down, 2-minute, red zone, those things, because the learning curve, I think, at least, the learning curve is that you got to really learn the game from a base down perspective, and the specialty situations tend to come later. And the more that you can get your base down, I would say, like, mindset solidified as a young player, then you can move to the specialties. And I think that's where he's going. And that's why I think those areas will get better for the Denver Broncos as they move down the back end of this season. And guys, you look around and Chiefs out, maybe, this thing is wide open. Aren't the Bills 2 games back of the Patriots at this point? This is one of those years where you can look around and you're like, hey, this is not out of the question. NFC is wide open. AFC is wide open. Why can't the Denver Broncos go win the Super Bowl with what I think is maybe the league's best defense?
Yeah, Joel, speaking about the defense, the defensive, it was just on display on Sunday, and we talked about Vance Joseph and his ability to call plays and the amount of man coverage they play, even without their best middle linebacker, and their best cover corner. Just what did you see from Vance Joseph in this defense against Kansas City shutting down Patrick Mahomes?
Well, I think that from a man defense perspective, you can play man if you can limit the clock of the quarterback. So I think it's a byproduct of the pass rush and the get off. And, even without some of the best, your best players in the back 2 levels, as you alluded to. But when you know that, listen, that quarterback, if he holds the ball for 2.83, 3.1, we're going to win. Now you can play man and you can play it aggressively, and you can play, heavy inside leverage. You can take away quick throws. You can be aggressive in that 5-yard buffer and get hands and contact on wide receivers. Those are all things that make, I think, this defense so difficult to face. And then when you get those players back, now the mixture of what's going on from, okay, we're going to play man and we're going to pressure. We're going to play man and we're going to just rush forward and still get home. Maybe mix in a zone pressure, a simulated pressure. Now all of a sudden you can throw a bracket if you've got a really good wide receiver that you're facing and a situation deems it's necessary. So I think the versatility of what he does is what I really love. And I know it doesn't seem like that because, again, they're in man quite a bit, but they've got enough wrinkles that it's just difficult for the quarterback. Like, for instance, there was that third down, what was it, about 4 minutes left, guys? Like, right before the last series where Denver goes and is able to get a field goal. Mahomes took that sack on the pressure from his left, and I don't think he expected what the coverage was behind it. Either that or his wide receiver ran the wrong route. I don't understand, but I've never seen Mahomes just hold the ball and take a sack, and I think that speaks to the level of variance that you can get in critical moments from this Denver defense.
Joel, as we move forward, the loss of J.K. Dobbins and the effect that it has on the running game, how important is it for someone else to step up, take some pressure off of Bo Nix in this passing game, and have a competent running game as we move forward and into the playoffs?
I think it's huge. I think it's huge because I don't believe that this passing game can just carry the offense. As much as I believe in Bo, and I know he's a good fit, and I know that he's going to continue to develop, and I think he's going to be a really good NFL quarterback, and it might even be this year, that he turns into that and maybe a champion level quarterback. I think you got to run the football. You got to run the football, and more specifically because of that first answer I gave. Stink and Stoke, you guys know, if you can at least have the threat of the run, the red area becomes so much different from an offensive perspective because tight ends become more viable. The middle of the field becomes more viable. And they can't just sit there and rush for and sit everybody in coverage with eyes in the backfield and create really tight windows for a quarterback. If you put them in conflict and you force them to choose, where are we going with our ratios? So do we have to load the box or can we sit here in coverage? I think that's maybe the most vital part of what their season will be is red area efficiency and how many times can you turn those possessions into touchdowns. I think that is 100% on the run game.
Visiting with Joel Klatt. Joel, we heard a much different tone from Deion Sanders yesterday, who said, quote, "Please understand, if anybody is built for adversity, I am. If anybody is built for change, I am. If anybody is built to overcome situations and trials and tribulations, I am. You got the right man. I promise you, you do, and I'm going to prove that to you. Just give me an opportunity. Give me a little more time." Do you believe Deion Sanders is still the right man for CU football?
Yeah, of course. Of course. There's not a doubt in my mind. I think, as much as I love Denver sports fans, but my goodness, have a memory that's a little bit longer than a goldfish, please. You remember what it was prior to him getting there, and this was always going to be a long build that I felt like was sped up by the fact that you had top-end players. You had a draft pick caliber quarterback. You had the Heisman Trophy winner that played on both sides of the football. This was always going to be a step-back year. I think that they played poorly in situations in 2 or 3 games that should have gone their way. Georgia Tech, they had a great chance to win that game and didn't. TCU, they struggled right before the half in a red zone possession and threw a pick, or else they win that game. So, this is a play or two away from a very different year. No one wants to hear that, but it's the truth. And then you had some games that got totally away from them, and I think that's why people are so upset. But he's absolutely the guy for the job, and they'll continue to build and I think be in a better spot next year and the year after moving forward. But let's not forget the 1-win year that took place before he got there. Come on. I get frustrated. It's be better than a goldfish, folks.
Hey, Joel, you travel around. You do all the biggest games in college football, so you've seen the best programs in college football. What does Deion need to do with this program to advance it and to be the right guy, like from a coaching standpoint and all that?
It's a good question. There's one thing that he has control of, which is I think he needs to hire a really good offensive coordinator, and one that's more college oriented and one that'll focus more on being able to run the football. Pat Shurmur was not a good coordinator and hasn't been for a long time. Bailed out by really good players a year ago, and it's tough but true. And then he needs to hope that the new athletic director, along with Rick George, who's going to be in an emeritus role, can land a huge donor, because they need financial resources, guys. And that's something that's not necessarily in Deion's control. You look at these teams that are playing well. Yes, they've got the right people in the right seats on the bus, to take the line from Jim Collins' Good to Great book, but they also have resources. And you look at what Indiana is doing. They have resources. Texas A&M has resources, and Colorado desperately needs that, because it's not a facilities race anymore. It is an arms race, because you've got to acquire talent, and talent takes resources. So they need more money. Period. They need somebody to give them a lot of money.
Last one here, as we're talking about college football, and now we're starting to see the college football playoff rankings and, who the projected what the projected field would look like. At this point, Joel, is it Ohio State versus the field?
I don't know about that, just because I do think Indiana is really a really good football team, and we'll see that game likely in the Big Ten championship game. But man, I will tell you, I've got Ohio State again this week, and I think what's so impressive to me is their defense. And if there's anything I know about this sport, it's that when you finally get down to it, quality defense and line of scrimmage play wins. And you better have a defense that's in the top 5 or 6 in the country if you want to win the national championship. Well, they happen to be the best defense by a pretty substantial margin. And they've got some of the most talented players in the country on that side. And that's what I look at them and I think to myself, okay, they've got the best singular player in Jeremiah Smith. They've got Carnell Tate. Now, those guys are both a little banged up and might not play this week, but they'll be fine in the long run. They've got a quarterback completing 80% of his passes. He's in the Heisman Trophy race, and the best defense in the country. So, yes, they are right now the leaders out in front, and someone's going to have to go track them down. We see, I always think about this. You play golf with people and you see the worst shot that they have, and then you realize oh, that's in their bag. All right. At any moment that can show up. And right now, Ohio State has just not shown a poor shot. They haven't shanked it. They haven't duck hooked it. They haven't hit the big high cut out of bounds. And you've gotten that from A&M, even as an undefeated, as they were, down 30-3 last week to South Carolina. You had Indiana against the ropes against Penn State, and we just haven't seen that for Ohio State. So, yeah, I think that they're the favorite right now, but maybe not by a substantial margin.